As always, how do you feel um, things went? Where do you think you've implemented some of the things that we've discussed? Steps moving forward from the last time, and in general, just your thoughts on where you can still kind of make some improvements. So that's three things. So overall, how did you feel about how the lesson went?
Okay, well, I think the good things about the lesson was maybe the first, like the video, like when I introduced the lesson to them, or like video text was good. Student performance was really good during the video texting, and they could comprehend the text, and they really took active part in the discussion. And in fact, that active participation of my students made it lengthy. So the time management, there was a question mark, like, so it took longer, and then I had to shorten my the work, because at first I had planned for more, and it turned out that all those work could not be done within the short.
So here's my question: how do you feel about having to pivot? Like, you had this plan, and it was evident that you saw that you weren't going to have time within the time frame, because there was a time frame, and I had to do mock testing.
Yeah.
So you made a decision to stop the lesson and pivot, and you continued today.
Yeah.
How do you feel about that?
If I take it emotionally, then like it's not a professional thing. If I think like, okay, why did I do that, like that, it had a mentally it was little tolling on me. But if I think logically, then I would say that other than having a not effective lesson, it's better to stop and then move forward on the other day. So that is what I did.
I agree 100%.
Yeah.
As a teacher, you sometimes have to even scrap a lesson.
Yeah, we need to adjust.
We do need to adjust. So I think that is a very valuable lesson. And okay, emotionally you felt a little stressed out.
Yeah.
However, today you came back and it was very focused. The activity was focused.
Yeah.
And I think making that adjustment was necessary. From what I could see, you did a good thing by making that adjustment.
Thank you. Yeah.
So I think emotionally, yes, it can be stressful,
Yeah.
but you'll soon get comfortable knowing I've got lots of time to do what I want to do. We're not rushing.
Yeah.
We're not rushing.
At all. Yeah.
And, rushed students, it wouldn't be authentic
Yeah.
when one thing I've written is you had your checklist.
Yeah.
That was one of the suggestions from the previous,
Yes.
to have some sort of rubric or checklist.
Yeah.
One thing you mentioned to the students, I've got this checklist. And then when you went around in desk conference, you showed the checklist, and you had the extrinsic motivator in place. We want intrinsic motivation for the most part, but the sticker comment, boy, the group that I was sitting close to, the minute you said, yeah, and if I see you're doing good work, you'll get a sticker. Well, all of a sudden they started working.
Yeah.
So obviously with this age group, extrinsic motivation,
Our record. Yeah.
yeah, but don't desensitize them
Yeah.
to extrinsic motivators.
Yeah.
We want them to be intrinsically motivated for the most part. So that was good. So I really think that, you know, this was a valuable lesson. We've got lots of time,
Yeah.
okay? Moving forward, maybe I can talk about all the things that I took notes on.
Yes.
Okay. So, basically, in the mini lesson, you had a lot of areas. It was basically focused on, you know, government,
Yeah.
and you know, you had some other resources that you put up about the flag, about the land,
Yeah.
and then the video about government, keeping people safe through rules, services, things like that.
And also they learned a new word that is citizen.
Yes, that's right. And some of them knew it. Remember, some of them said people.
People.
And you
yeah.
said, oh, you already know this,
Yeah.
this word.
Yeah.
So I think when it came down to the activity, having it focused with just name the country and what are the rules of your country. The name of the country, that seemed like a very simple task in your mind maybe. It wasn't as simple as you thought, but they were able to do it.
Yeah, because today I showed them actually
Yeah.
my planning of my own country.
Yeah.
And then I showed them that, okay, this is the name, and I also told them, they said, what is this word? Is it a Korean word like that? So I said, no, I took out the name, the initials from my family members.
Ah, nice.
And then I made the name. And they really loved it, and they said, yes, it's a good choice.
Yeah.
Yeah.
So that model
Yeah.
is excellent. Then having the main task,
Yeah.
the big task where they actually, you know, had this sheet. Everyone got the sheet to write the rules of their country. Very focused. One thing to focus on as a group.
Right.
And they had 15 minutes with the
Yeah.
timer. So
Yeah.
the timer is good. And you went around, you desk conferenced with your checklist. I'd like to see the checklist later.
Okay.
Is it just their names?
Names and then the spaces for their activity. So in my class, I'm practicing even for their behavior.
Mm-hmm.
Check means all good. Question mark means so-so.
Yeah.
And then cross means not good.
Okay.
So this way they understand it better.
Now, when you let them know, you inform them that there was a checklist, and that they would get a sticker if they work well together. They know the criteria of check.
Yes.
Okay.
Yeah.
So one thing I wrote here. Remember that think out loud strategy
Yeah.
I talked about very early in
Yes.
You could, with your checklist, go, oh, Tepe just got a check.
Okay.
He was giving it his classmates a good idea. So thinking out loud, it seems like a strange thing. If you were out in public, you wouldn't want to do that. But as a teacher, you can be that person who thinks out loud, and it tunes the students into what you are actually, like that checklist, they forget about it maybe, but when you think out loud and say, oh, Hibiki just got a question mark.
Yeah.
Because
I
he's
was
not-
mentioned about the cross, like you are getting a cross.
Yeah.
So
You could say,
positive things first.
give the reason why
Yeah.
too. And you can say, thinking out loud, you can say, do you think you can change that X to a check mark before the end of this activity?
Mhm.
I want to put a check mark, but right now I had to put an X because you're fooling around.
Yeah.
Try to change it to a check. So we want to give students an out.
Yeah.
So the thinking out loud
Mm-hmm.
will give them that out.
Yeah, I normally do that in my other classes, but yeah, I'm going to implement this for this type of activities again.
Even remember the think out loud was when you're writing on the
Yeah.
whiteboard.
Yeah,
You're speaking out loud as you write.
yeah,
It's just one of those tools that's really good, especially grade 1,
yeah,
tuning them in.
yeah.
Okay.
Okay.
Now, speaking about tuning them in, I think what could have made the writing aspect of the activity where they're writing the rules. So obviously I liked the fact that you've got the groups going, and we did talk about giving roles to everyone, but there was a role for everyone. Everyone had the same sheet. Yeah. So, you know, that worked okay. I think, you know, the point form, that was one of your targets, writing in point form.
Yeah.
So you could see, like I could see the group that I was beside, they were writing in point form, and I could see the middle table, I could see that they'd written something. I didn't move, I kind of stayed where I was. But, you know, that's a good first stage. What you should consider moving forward, so next steps, is providing your grade 1 students with modeled language structures. Even though they're creating rules and you don't know what rules they're going to come up with.
I did it in my video when I showed them my rules.
Yeah.
So those were in bullet points.
Yeah.
My name of my country and the bullet points.
Okay, so here's an example. So you model the sentence structure, keep it simple. It is important to blank. So there's an affirmative, they could put a rule in there. It is important to save pet bottles or recycle, right? That could go in that one. Another one, instead of saying don't, which you could, like I'm not saying it's against the rules to use don't do.
Yeah.
But to keep things affirmative, you are not allowed to do.
Okay.
So a blank.
Yeah.
Having those two simple structures, and you could give it after the brainstorming.
Okay.
After they've written their bullet points,
Yeah.
then underneath those bullet points, how can you write those bullet points using either of these?
Okay.
But they see it on the whiteboard. It's a model, and it is pretty simple.
Yeah.
Right? Now, some of the students, I won't use the name, but some of the students are not able maybe to even write, putting spaces between their.
Yeah.
So you've got to scaffold that and really support that in different ways. The group, that was very good.
Yeah.
You had your two strong groups who could write, and your middle group, they cut with scissors and glue.
Yeah.
But with that activity where they glued it, you could have a line underneath. For homework, they could then write just what they glued the word. There could be a single line underneath where they can write. So it's just an extension to what you did, because you differentiated it. They were still working on a task where they had to match the pictures with words.
Yeah.
Two groups were asked to write right away. The other group who struggles with writing, they cut and paste, but still allow them the opportunity to write.
Right. Yeah.
So you differentiated where you put in that extra step where they're thinking, they're cutting and they're thinking and they're putting the word. So they're now almost there.
Yeah.
That single line to write the sentence could be good.
Okay.
But anyway, that modeled language is very important.
In my projection, actually, I did people should this way. This
That's
way
nice and simple. I like that.
People should stand in a queue or in a line and take their turn.
Yeah.
So this way, because they are doing classroom rules, so I kept some similarity between the classroom rules and the rules of my own country, so that it is registered in their mind.
Now, that video was no longer playing.
Yeah.
So having those models written on the whiteboard
would be better.
Think out loud. Say, okay guys, you've done your bullet points. Now I'm going to write those things that you saw in the video.
Yeah.
And as you write, you're speaking out, you're thinking out loud, or you're just saying what you're writing.
Yeah.
People should and a blank.
Yeah.
people should not, and a blank.
Yeah.
That's nice.
And
Simpler than mine.
Instantly I made a change in my plan. That is, normally I thought they would write the name of their country on the paper themselves. But when I saw them, they're not focusing on that. So I called up one group to write. So when one group comes and writes the name of on the board, so other groups starts focusing. So I used that strategy actually.
Now that, I wrote a little note here. The structured language, visible,
Yeah.
that could be given before, but sometimes it's better to give it after they, since your goal was bullet points,
Yeah.
that was your goal, bullet points,
Yeah.
but taking that extra, extending it to that extra kind of skill
Yeah.
of writing a simple sentence.
Okay.
Very simple now that you're at this point, they've written those bullet points. So after the fact, you can do it as well.
Yeah, I will.
Okay, I like the fact, okay, one thing that I'd asked you to work on is following through on a request or an expectation. Remember when the last one, you were saying, please don't touch, and they were still touching and you allowed it. This time, you said, please sit on letters. And it took a little bit of time, but you waited and you made sure, you followed through and made sure everyone was sitting on letters before you proceeded.
Yeah.
Perfect.
Thank you.
Don't ever give an expectation or a request or a direction and let them not comply. You know, especially when it's something for, you know, our essential agreements.
Yeah.
Safety, respect, learning,
Yeah.
for them to be focused and sitting properly and being able to focus,
Yeah.
that's part of the, you know, it's going to
Yes.
enhance learning.
Yeah.
So I like the fact that you waited and followed through on that. And I like the fact that you had a final presentation, oral.
Oral.
After you collected the papers, you know, now let me just hear what you had. Now, you can still return those papers, write the model on the whiteboard,
Yeah.
and have them on that same sheet under their bullet points
Yeah.
or their short form.
Yeah. Correction kind of thing.
Do
Yeah,
it
yeah.
after the break.
Yeah.
You know,
I'll do that.
you could,
Mm.
and it's just, once again, we're not rushed.
Yeah.
We're now building on what we were trying to, we're teaching a skill,
Mm.
but one skill that, you know, grade 1, they're now ready to start learning how to do simple sentences.
Mm.
Later, you know, very soon, compound sentences.
Yeah.
And some of your students might even be able to get into complex where
Yeah.
they're
Some of them
because,
can use because. Yeah.
you know. So, you know, there are a lot of possibilities, but this lesson doesn't have to end here.
Yeah. Yeah.
Right? So all these things we're talking about, you could return that paper. But I like the oral presentation, and now you could give the paper back
Mhm.
next time and let them
Do
write
that
the sentence.
first. Okay.
You probably don't have time after
Yeah.
music, so it won't happen today.
No, it won't happen today.
So after the break.
Yeah.
You use the bell reset well. As I said, the exit ticket was well done. Okay. You supported, so here's where you were good for supporting your learners. You wrote the words that they didn't know on the whiteboard. So you were scaffolding or supporting them where they could see the word and then they weren't stalled because you wrote the word and they were able to continue with the activity.
Yeah.
And you did your desk conferencing, you went to each group with your checklist and you were checking their progress. Yeah, so those are the main things that I wanted to address. You know, the things that I'm kind of giving hints for moving forward.
Yeah.
These are, you know, little tricks, you know, but I think the fact that your tasks were more focused and more manageable, that's a plus. Yesterday, was it yesterday or 2 days ago?
Yesterday.
Yeah, it was yesterday. The fact that you pivoted and realized, no, this is, they're not going to be able to do it this period, and you said, let's do it tomorrow.
Yeah.
You know, obviously Moreland, they want to know exactly how this, and that's part of your reflection.
Yeah.
And I think it's a learning point where we as teachers can pivot. We can even say, okay, we're going to stop this lesson and I'm going to think about it and we'll continue tomorrow.
Yeah.
So that's actually a plus. Where you felt it fell apart yesterday, maybe it's a plus. It's a learning point.
Thank you. Yeah.
Now, obviously, when you're videotaping and you've got me watching, you're stressed. You want things to go as smoothly as possible.
Yes.
But obviously, it's grade 1. I think you're now using your voice a little firmer.
Yeah.
We don't need to yell.
Yeah.
You know, but we need to use that firm tone. You know, it's not yelling, but it's a firm tone. Stop now. Please focus. Obviously, some people, you know, do it differently. They don't need to ever use that firm tone. But sometimes with a group that is
Depends
not
on the group,
focused,
Yeah.
You have to, you know, but again, I want to reiterate, do not desensitize them to, you know, extrinsic motivation. Don't desensitize them to negative reinforcement or, you know, redirection through a firm tone. Don't desensitize them to your voice.
Okay.
Also, don't desensitize them to the bell. You use it when it's time to, okay, let's focus.
Transition.
Yeah, exactly. Okay, anything you want to ask or, you know, discuss or comment on based on those?
No, I think we had a good discussion, and this was a good learning for me that I had to break it. Like when I stopped the lesson yesterday, I really didn't feel good. I was totally frustrated, and I didn't have a good evening as well because I had to rethink and I had to think of some other materials, and then it clicked my mind that okay, my students like Legos very much, so I made the worksheet with Legos.
Oh, nice.
Yeah, so that they feel attracted to it.
Okay.
Yeah. Right? So what I have done is I have made a pack for the flag and the land they can do from home.
Oh,
so
perfect.
it's a homework I have sent them with
Perfect.
today.
Okay,
Yeah.
good. Yeah, grade 1 homework. You know, manageable tasks. It tunes parents into what's happening in the classroom as well. Obviously, Google Classroom, you can explain your expectations for the homework, but it supports this whole kind of lesson that you planned. And today you got a good task started, rules of the country, and when you get back, maybe you could, you know, provide them with that sentence structure in front of them. And now those bullet points that you wrote, or those, you know, the short, you know, phrases or whatever they use. Some of them might have just written, you know, 2 words. Like it might have been just a phrase, but let's extend it and let's actually get just like the essential agreements of your classroom, where they have figured out the words and the structure. Same thing with this. All right.
Thank you.
I think that's everything.
Thank you very much, Peter.